Level 1, the runner, you're 17. You weren't recruited, you were noticed. There's a difference. It starts in a border town that doesn't officially exist on most maps. Dusty roads, broken streetlights, generators humming louder than conversations. You grow up watching trucks move at night, no headlights, no questions asked. You learn early that in places like this, movement is currency. Your first job is simple. Carry a package from one side of the market to the other. No questions, no delays. No mistakes. You don't know what's inside. You're not supposed to. That's the rule. A man named Kareem watches you from across the street. Mid-40s, clean clothes in a dirty town, the kind of person who doesn't raise his voice because he never needs to. When you return, he nods once. That nod changes everything. The next job is outside the town. A pickup truck, late night, no license plates. You sit in the back with crates that rattle when the road gets rough. The driver doesn't speak. You don't ask, you pass through a checkpoint without stopping. Money changes hands. You see it, folded and quick. That's your first lesson. Nothing moves without permission. Level 2, the courier, you're 19. You move more than packages now. You move information, small electronics, sometimes people. The Warzone is expanding. What used to be a contained conflict is now bleeding into highways, villages, cities. Supply lines stretch thin. That's where people like you come in. You learn routes the military doesn't fully control. Dirt roads, dry riverbeds, abandoned rail lines. You memorize them like lifelines. Each path has risks, bandits, patrols, drones overhead that don't sleep. You work under handler now. His name is Darius, former logistics contractor, American accent buried under years overseas. He doesn't talk much about his past, but you can see it in how he moves, calculated, precise. He teaches you rules. Never carry everything at once. Never trust a single route. Never run unless you're already dead. Your first real test comes on a supply run near a contested zone. You're moving medical kits, real ones, not the kind sold in markets. There's a checkpoint ahead, not official. Armed men, no uniforms, no insignia. Darius looks at you. Your call, you feel your pulse in your throat. Turning back costs time. Going forward risks everything. You drive forward. Slow, controlled. The man at the checkpoint steps closer, rifle hanging loose like it's part of his arm. He looks inside the truck. Your hands don't shake. You don't let them. Money changes hands again. Less this time. You're learning. You pass through that night. Darius says, you didn't flinch. That matters. You don't sleep much after that. Not because of fear, because of realization. You're getting good at this. Level 3, the transporter, you're 22, you don't just move things anymore, you move outcomes. The Warzone has structure now. Factions, alliances, temporary ceasefires that last just long enough for someone to break them. Every side needs something, ammo, fuel, intel, people. You don't pick sides. That's your value. Your network grows. Contacts in different regions. Drivers, informants, mechanics who can rebuild an engine in the dark. You become a node in something bigger than yourself. One night, you're tasked with moving a high-value package across a heavily monitored corridor. No details given. That usually means it matters more than anything else. You switch vehicles 3 times. First a cargo van, then a civilian sedan, then a delivery truck marked with a company logo that hasn't existed in years. Each switch is timed, precise. Halfway through the route, a drone passes overhead. You freeze, engine off, lights dead. You wait 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2, the drone moves on. You start the engine again, slowly, quietly. When you reach the drop point, there's no one waiting. That's not unusual. You wait in silence. Minutes stretch. Finally, a door opens. A figure steps out. Face covered. No words exchanged. Just a nod. The package is gone. You drive away without looking back. Later, you find out what you're transporting. Not directly, never directly, but enough to understand. Weapons, advanced. The kind that changes control of territory overnight. You don't react. Not outwardly, but something shifts. Level 4, the smuggler. You're 25. Now people come to you. You're no longer just part of the system. You are the system. Routes, contacts, timing, risk calculations, it all runs through you. You operate out of multiple locations. Safe houses, warehouses, temporary garages, nothing permanent. Permanence gets you killed. You start dealing with American contractors, private military groups, intelligence intermediaries who never give real names. Meetings happen in neutral zones, abandoned factories, empty airstrips, roadside diners miles from anywhere. One contractor, callsign Mason, works with you regularly. Former special operations, you can tell without asking. He watches everything, doesn't trust easily. You ever think about getting out? He asks once. You don't answer, because the truth is you've thought about it more than once. But getting in was easy. Getting out is something else entirely. Your operations become more complex. Multi-route smuggling, decoys, misinformation. You run parallel convoys, 1 real, 2 fake. You leak false intel just to see who acts on it. Paranoia isn't a weakness anymore. It's survival. One mission changes everything. You're hired to move a group of people, not refugees, not soldiers, something in between. They don't speak. They don't ask questions. They just follow instructions. Midway through the route, you hit a military checkpoint. This one is official. U.S. forces. Armored vehicles, thermal scans, no shortcuts, no bribes. Your heart slows down instead of speeding up. That's new. A soldier approaches, clean uniform, American flag on the shoulder. He looks inside the vehicle, then at you. Where are you headed? You answer calmly, pre-planned, rehearsed. He studies your face longer than the others ever did. For a moment you think it's over, then he steps back, waves you through, you drive. No one speaks for the next 20 miles. That night you realize something you hadn't allowed yourself to think before. You're not invisible anymore, you're known. And in a war zone, being known is the first step toward being hunted. By 27, you have more money than you ever imagined, more contacts than you can track, more risk than you can control. And for the first time since you were 17, you start thinking about the end, not the next job, not the next route, the end of all of it. Because you've seen what happens to people who stay too long. They don't retire, they disappear. Level 5, the planner, you're 28, you stop moving cargo yourself. That's the first real change, not because you can't, because you shouldn't. You've learned that the closer you are to the product, the closer you are to the risk. So you step back, you build distance, layers. Now you sit in rooms instead of trucks, dim lights, maps spread across tables, satellite images printed and marked with routes only you understand. You coordinate drivers, time windows, fuel drops, safe houses. You don't run the route, you run the system. Your network stretches across borders now. Desert crossings, coastal entries, airstrips that exist for 20 minutes at a time and then disappear again. Every operation is a puzzle. Every mistake is permanent. Darius is still around, but less involved. Older now, slower. He watches you the way Kareem once did, measuring. You've built something big, he tells you. Big things get noticed. You already know that because things have started changing. Checkpoints are tighter. Patrols are unpredictable. Drones don't just pass overhead anymore, they linger. Circle, watch, someone is mapping the same routes you are. Level 6, the ghost network. You're 30, you adapt. You stop relying on fixed paths. You create moving routes, fluid logistics that shift based on time, weather, patrol density. No route exists twice. You introduce blind transfers, drivers who don't know what they're carrying, handlers who only know one step of the chain. Information is divided, compartmentalized. No one sees the full picture except you. That's the burden. You work with new players now. Intelligence intermediaries, contractors who don't wear uniforms but operate with military precision. Some speak with American accents, others with European, some with none at all. One of them introduces himself as Cole. That's not his real name. He doesn't ask what you move. He already knows. I need a route, he says. Clean, no signatures, no noise. You give him a price. He doesn't negotiate. That tells you everything. The job is different. Not cargo, not weapons, data, physical drives that can't be transmitted. Sensitive, time critical. You move it through 3 countries in 18 hours. No stops longer than 5 minutes. No digital trail. When it's done, Cole just nods. Same as Kareem did years ago, but this nod feels heavier because now you're not just part of a war, you're part of something bigger than it. Level 7, the target. You're 32, it starts small. A missed check-in. One of your drivers doesn't report. That happens sometimes. But this time, the backup contact doesn't respond either. Then a safe house is compromised. No signs of forced entry, just empty, cleaned out. Someone is watching, not randomly, systematically. You change protocols overnight, burn locations, drop contacts, shift operations to secondary networks, but it doesn't stop. A message arrives, not through your channels, direct, a photo, one of your routes, marked, highlighted. They know you don't panic, you can't. Panic is what gets people killed. You analyze. Who had access? Where was the leak? There is no clear answer. That's worse than finding one. You meet Darius one last time. Different place, different tone. You stayed too long, he says. You don't argue because you know he's right. Level 8, the unraveling. You're 33, everything tightens. Operations that once took hours now take days. Every move requires double verification. Every contact is suspect. You start seeing patterns in things that might not be patterns. A car that passes twice. A voice on the radio that sounds slightly off. A delay that doesn't make sense. Paranoia becomes constant, not spikes. A baseline, you reduce operations. Fewer jobs, higher stakes. One last contract comes through. High value, high risk. Enough money to disappear for good. You hesitate. That's new. Before the answer was always yes. Now you think about it, about what comes after, or if there is an after. You take the job, of course you do. Level 9, the last run. You're 34, it's a multi-layer operation. 3 convoys, 2 decoys, 1 real payload. You don't know exactly what's inside. You never do. But the security around it tells you enough. This isn't just valuable. This is critical. You coordinate everything from a temporary setup miles away. Radios, maps, live updates from each driver. Convoy 1 moves, clean. Convoy 2 hits interference. Nothing major. Convoy 3, the real one, goes dark for 47 seconds. 47 seconds is too long. When comms return, the driver sounds normal. Too normal. You feel it instantly. Something's off. You reroute. Change the drop point. Adjust timing. Minutes later, you get confirmation. Conv 2 was intercepted. Not random, precise. They knew. That means one thing. They were waiting for the real one. You've just slipped past them. Barely. The delivery completes. No complications after that. Too smooth almost. That's what worries you. Because operations like this don't end clean. They end quietly. Level 10, the decision. You're 34, same night. You sit alone after the job is done. No noise, no radio chatter, no movement, just silence. You count everything: money, contacts, safe locations, then you count the risks. How many people know your name? How many routes have been exposed? How many times you got lucky? The numbers don't balance anymore. For the first time since you started, the system you built no longer protects you. It exposes you. You remember what Mason asked years ago. You ever think about getting out? Back then you didn't answer. Now you do, yes. The only question left is how. Because leaving this life isn't like walking away from a job. There's no notice, no goodbye, no second chance if you get it wrong. And the people who want what you know, they don't let assets walk away. You start planning not a route, not a delivery, an exit. And you know this will be the most dangerous operation of your life. Level 11, the exit plan. You're 35, you've spent years building routes for others. Now you build one for yourself. It's different. Cargo doesn't think. Cargo doesn't panic. Cargo doesn't get hunted after it disappears. You do, so you design it the only way you know how: layered, indirect, invisible. No single path, no single destination. A chain of movements that look like routine operations until they aren't. You start by disappearing slowly, not all at once. That gets noticed. You reduce activity. Decline contracts. Hand off operations to secondary contacts. You make it look like burnout, like someone stepping back after too many years in the field. People accept that. They don't accept sudden silence. You move assets quietly. Cash converted, redistributed, hidden across multiple locations. Identities prepared, documents, backstories, small inconsistencies that make them believable. You burn what you don't need. Phones, drives, notes. Entire histories reduced to ash in metal barrels behind abandoned structures. Every piece of your life becomes something you either carry or erase. Level 12, the shadow phase. You're still 35, you're not gone yet, but you're no longer visible. You stop using known routes, stop contacting familiar faces. Even Darius gone, not because you don't trust him, because you can't risk anyone being connected to you anymore. That's the hardest part, not the danger, the isolation. You move through cities like a stranger. Motels that don't ask questions, diners where no one remembers your face, gas stations off highways that lead nowhere. You listen more than you speak. Watch reflections in windows, track patterns in traffic. Once you spot the same vehicle twice in two different towns. Could be coincidence. You treat it like it's not. You change direction immediately. Abandon your current path. Shift to a secondary plan you prepared weeks ago. This is what survival looks like now, not speed. Adjustment. Level 13, the breach. You're 36, it happens anyway. No system is perfect. Not even yours. A contact you thought was clean gets picked up. Interrogated. You don't know what he said. You don't wait to find out. Your timeline collapses. What was supposed to take weeks now has to happen in hours. You initiate the final sequence. Identity switch. Vehicle change. Route collapse. You move through an industrial port at night, blending with workers loading containers under floodlights. Noise everywhere. Engines, cranes, metal hitting metal. Perfect cover, you're just another body in motion. Until you're not. A voice behind you, sharp, direct. You don't turn immediately. Turning too fast draws attention. You keep walking, count steps. 3, 4, 5, then you turn. Two men, not local. Their stance gives it away. Their eyes don't scan randomly. They lock on you. You don't run. Running confirms everything. You drop the bag casually, like it doesn't matter. Like it's not your life inside it. One of them steps closer. Stop. You stop. Everything slows. You calculate distance, angles, exits, then something interrupts. A forklift cuts between you and them. Loud, blinding lights, forcing everyone to step back. 1 second, that's all you get. You move not fast, not obvious, just enough to disappear into the chaos behind the containers. Left, right, narrow gap, climb, drop. You don't look back. Not until you're out of the port. Breath controlled, movement steady. You're not safe, but you're not caught. Level 14, the crossing. You're still 36. Same night, the final border isn't marked on any map. No fences, no signs, just a stretch of terrain controlled by no one and everyone at the same time. You've crossed dozens of these for other people. This is the first time it matters this much. You move at night. No lights, no sound beyond your own breathing and the crunch of dirt under your boots. Every shadow feels alive. Every distant noise could be pursuit. Halfway through you stop, not because you have to, because something feels wrong. You wait. Listen, nothing, and that's what makes it worse. Because in your world nothing usually means something. You change direction slightly, not enough to alter the route completely. Just enough to break a pattern someone might be tracking. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. Time doesn't move normally anymore. Then you see it. A faint light in the distance, not a vehicle. Too still, a checkpoint, no, a marker, the edge you cross without ceremony. No moment of relief, no dramatic pause, just one step and then another. Level 15, the disappearance. You're 37, there's no announcement, no confirmation that you made it, just absence. The network you built continues without you for a while. Then it shifts. New names, new routes. Your traces fade faster than you expected. That's how it works. No one is irreplaceable, not even you. You settle somewhere far from everything you knew. Not a big city, not a small village. Somewhere in between, a place where people mind their own business. You take a different kind of job. Nothing that requires questions. Nothing that draws attention. You wake up without a radio, without maps, without the constant calculation of risk. At first it feels wrong, too quiet, too simple. You keep expecting something to go wrong. A knock on the door, a car that shouldn't be there, a voice calling your name. It doesn't happen. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months. The tension fades slowly, not completely, never completely. Level 16, the reflection. Your 40 time has distance now, enough to look back without reacting immediately. You think about the routes, the nights, the decisions that felt small at the time but changed everything. Karim, Darius, Mason, some are probably gone, some still in the game. You don't try to find out that life is closed. You think about what you were: a smuggler, a facilitator, a ghost moving between lines no one else could cross. You also think about what it costs: sleep, trust, identity. You don't regret leaving, but you understand now there was no clean way out, only a less dangerous one. Sometimes late at night you replay the last run, the port, the voice behind you, the moment everything could have ended. You wonder what would have happened if the timing was different by even a second. You stop that thought before it goes too far, because that's how the past pulls you back in. Level 17, the truth. You're older now, wiser in ways you didn't ask for. People think smuggling is about moving things. It's not. It's about moving through systems that aren't supposed to be crossed, understanding where control ends and chaos begins, and living exactly in that space. You lived there for years, longer than most survive. In the end, you didn't win, you didn't lose either. You just got out, and in your world. That's the closest thing to a victory that exists.